Hi, thanks for tuning into the channel today. I'm going to have a conversation about used 12 strings. If you're shopping for a new 12 string, what brands should you consider? There are a lot of different options out there, but one of the weird things about 12 string, and I have to say this, that 12 strings are the most idiosyncratic of any type of guitar you can buy. You can go through a store that has, if you can find more than one 12 string model in a store, well, that's a rare thing anyway. But if you can find, different brands of 12 strings to try out and compare against each other, one of the things that you'll find is that take two 12 strings from the same company, same lot, and compare them side by side, and there will be way more differences between them than you will find than any two 6 strings of the same lot and model and brand. Maybe it's just the fact that guitar manufacturers don't make as many 12 strings, and so the quality control kind of goes up and down a little bit on them, or maybe there's just a larger variability in the ingredients and the time and the attention put into building them. I really don't know what it is to explain it, but you can go through and find 12 strings from the same manufacturer, and there will be some will be real dogs to play, and some will sound really good. Well, I guess you could say that about 6 strings as well, but there seems to be a greater degree of quality control and uniformity among 6 strings than there is in 12 strings. It can be so drastic. I have gone through music stores, and like I said, I've been playing guitar for it's like 48 years. Been playing 12 string for about 45 of those years. And one of the things, like, I've gone through and found like Martins and Taylors in music stores and picked them up and play them, and it's just like yuck. And then others I picked up and they'd be like really wow, just very, have a great voice to them, and they're thousands of dollars. Or one of the oddball things you'll find is you can go play 12 strings that are in the $1,000 to $2,000, $3,000 range, and you can go in the same music store and pick up an Alvarez that sells for $300, $400, and it'll sound as good. And then it's just a matter of like, well, is what's on the headstock more important to you and the status and stuff than your money? I've told the story before on the channel that I went out shopping for a 12 string one time. I went through a period of a few years where I didn't have one, and I really missed having one, so I saved up some money, and then when tax return time came, I said, okay, I'm going to go out and get one with my wife's blessing. So I had about $1,500 to spend on one, and I went out, and I'd been kind of scouting some of the music stores in the area, and I went to about 2 or 3 music stores, and I tried out a couple of them. There was a Taylor in that price range that I could buy. There was a really interesting one by a company called Tacoma, which they're now owned by Fender. I think they are not their own company anymore, and they are not the same guitars that they were today with that name as there were back in the day. This has been in the late 90s or so, and that's where I got a guitar like this. This is an Alvarez. The model on this one is an AJ60, and I went through the music store, 3 different music stores, and tried different ones. And one store had a Martin, and that was one of these Martins that was just a dog. I mean, it looked kind of nice, but man, it just sounded really dead. I played this Tacoma that was pretty nice, had a really good voice to it. Played a Taylor that I really didn't care for. It played well, but I just didn't like the sound. And I went to this one music store. It was a national chain called Mars, and it's now defunct. But over on the used wall, they had the 12 string like this, same model, hanging up on the wall, and I walked over to it just to see what it was, because it was a jumbo. It was a pretty guitar, and I saw the label and realized it was an Alvarez. And I went up to it, and it only had 6 strings on it at the time. So I figured, oh well, somebody had converted it just to a 6 string. So I kind of looked at it and just made sure it was structurally stable, that there wasn't some reason that they took off the other 6 strings, like maybe the neck was bowing or something. But it looked like it was in really good shape. And I just hit the low E string that was on the thing, and the guitars went boom. There's this nice bloom to the sound. You could feel the back of the guitar vibrate against your chest. It was really resonant. I'm going, ooh, this thing sounds nice. And from that, I could just kind of extrapolate what this guitar's voice was going to be. So I asked the salesman. I said, "How much is for this Alvarez here?" And he says, "Oh, it's $300 with comes with a hard shell case, a TKL hard shell case, which those sell for like $150." I'm going like sold. So I bought it, came home with $1,200 in my pocket, and my wife was like really super happy. So that was a plus. Get a wonderful 12 string and come home and have money left over and a happy wife. So that was a pretty good deal. So as over the years I've played lots of different 12 strings and I've owned lots of different 12 strings, and I figured I would just share with you some of the thoughts I have about brands and what to get. My first 12 string was a Takamine. This was back in the 70s when Takamine made copies of Martin guitars. Mine was a copy of like a Martin D18 12 string. That was a great 12 string, played and sounded wonderful. It did have a laminated top. It was not a solid top, but as I've said before, laminated tops on a 12 string are not necessarily a negative. Obviously a solid top is going to be a little bit more resonant, but with the wear and tear that a 12 string goes through, having a laminated top is not necessarily that big of a deal, and there's so much tension on the 12 string. You're putting so much energy into the top with those strings. Resonance is usually not a problem. Actually, having too much resonance can be a problem, unless your skills at damping are really, really good. After that, I bought my first really nice 12 string. That was a custom-made John Graven. If I still had that guitar today, it'd be worth over $10,000. But it was one of those kind of things. I played it for about 15 years, decided, oh, well, it was time to get something new, and I traded it for something else. I had a Guild D412, which is the Dreadnought, more traditional shaped body, not the curvy jumbo type body. Guilds, if you can find one of those used, that's a really good deal. They have 2 truss rods in the neck, which means their necks are really stable on them, and you can adjust the bass and treble side a little bit differently. The necks are thick on them because of that, but you just have to adjust your hand position a little bit. I owned a Hamer electric 12 string. I'm looking at a list here if you're wondering what I'm doing, looking off to the side here. A Carvin electric double neck, which had 2 necks on it. The Fender, I had a small body Fender that was actually kind of a nice little fun little guitar to play, but it was not real loud. The smaller body makes a big difference. You don't get the big booming bass response, but it was a kind of a fun guitar to finger pick, and it was a small. If you're a smaller person, if you're female, that's a body size that might work for you well. After that guitar is when I bought my first Alvarez AJ60. That guitar, the AJ60, I liked so much that I wanted a 6-string to match it, and I bought the 6-string to match it. So I had the pair, and I called them my twins. Over the years, with moving and things like this, I've had to cull down my guitar collection, and I sold those once upon a time and kicked myself. I think I regretted selling those guitars more so than any others that I ever got rid of, and they were not terribly expensive guitars. They're $300-400 guitars. I think now, if you could find one of these or the equivalent new model of these, they're around $600 or so. But gosh, Alvarez just makes a really great guitar for the money. I have a Rogue Herringbone that my son gifted to me. It's quite a nice little guitar. It's very inexpensive, but sounds great, plays good, very stable. Laminated top again on that one. Then after missing my Alvarez 12 string so much, I bought this one. And just that I've talked about the specs on these before. One of the unique things about Alvarez, this model has an Alpine spruce top. That's from Germany. That's not the typical Sitka spruce like you get on most 6-string guitars. It has maple back and sides, which are real pretty, and maple neck. The neck dimensions on it are really good, very comfortable. It has sort of an ebonized rosewood fingerboard and bridge. This has the traditional bridge. There is a step-down bridge that they make on some of the later ones. That is kind of a cool feature that helps you get better down bearing across the bridge saddle. But these are really great guitars, and they sound great, play great, have binding all around. They're understated in their appointments. Then I bought another 6-string that matches this one as well. So that's my current twins. This is the second time I bought these same 6-string and 12-string guitar. So that says something right there that you'd go back and try to find a guitar just like what you had before. Let's see what else we've got here. We've got the Alvarez. My another guitar that figures prominently in my 12-string videos is my custom prototype. That was made for me by Eileen Music. Basically, that's the one that has the extended headstock with the full-size tuning machines on it, and the Bubinga back and sides, and what else has it got on it? Ebony fingerboard, ebony bridge. That's one that I play. That's my main standard tuning guitar. Now, that's kind of what my collection has been. Give you an idea of some of the experiences I've had. Some of the guitars that I've really liked that I've played in stores, and sometimes I just didn't have room for them or didn't make had to make the purchasing decision at the time. Some of the ones, let me pull up my list here. These are some of the ones that I have had in the past, or that I've played in the past in music stores. And in the $1,000 or under range, if you're looking for a used 12-string, these are ones you might want to consider. Alvarez, of course, I would strongly recommend those. Washburn makes a really nice jumbo, kind of like this one. Has great bass response, sounds very nice. Breedlove makes some very nice 12 strings. They have their really expensive ones, but they're under 1,000 range, they're pretty good. I do not recommend Taylor guitars under $1,000. I've never run into one that played or sounded the way I would expect a 12 string to sound. They were always kind of stiff, kind of dry sounding. Didn't care for them. I love the expensive Taylors. If I wanted to spend $3,000 for one, yeah, Taylor would be great, but I'm just not in the market for that kind of instrument. Old Yamahas, if you can find old Yamahas in the FG series from the 70s and 80s, they can sound really great and play really great. Old Takaminis from the 70s, if you can find one, that would be a good thing to snag. I don't recommend current Epiphones. Epiphone, a couple other manufacturers make these 12 strings that are made in Korea or Singapore or wherever like that. They have zero personality to them, and I don't feel they're structurally very sound. It's one of the weird things with 12 string, because of the bracing and to be able to hold it to the tension. You either have to make a guitar that's so heavily braced and so heavily fortified against that tension that it takes away all the resonance, or you make one that's resonant and it's not structurally sound. You'll get bellying or bulging of the bridge, or you get the bridge start to pull up, those kind of things. So I don't recommend the new Epiphones. They are just too heavily built to ever sound good. The new Fenders, likewise, I don't care for the sound of those. But if you can find old Fenders, they have quite a bit of personality. And if you can find the old Epiphones, like the Epiphone, I think it was called the Texan. This is a guitar that has the trapeze style tailpiece. That's the piece of metal down here, sort of like an archtop guitar, and it's got the bridge, and so the strings go across the bridge. So the pull is coming from the end pin area of the body, not from the bridge here. And many of those have a 0 fret at the top. So right here by the nut, they'll have a fret right there. Those are pretty cool, and they fetch a pretty good price, but you can find it for under $1,000 quite often. Old Lyle 12 strings. Lots of personality with those. Now, any of these you want to kind of check, make sure that the action in the neck and stuff is good. Action can be adjusted as long as the saddle is not all the way down to the top of the bridge, and necks can be adjusted. I would stay away from anything that requires a neck reset, but if the neck just needs to have the truss rod adjusted and have the action set on it, boy, an old Lyle can really sound great for you. Let's see here. Cortez and Goya also made some very nice acoustic 12 strings in that particular period. Now, if you're going to look for guitars over $1,000, if you got that kind of a budget, I would certainly anything Taylor in that range 2,000 and up. They're going to be beautiful. They're going to play well. Going to sound great. Gibsons, the Gibson Songwriter acoustic 12 string is a primo 12 string, but you have to adjust the action on it. If you play one in the music store, it's going to feel too high, but there's enough room to shave the bridge down a little bit and get that action down and make it really nice. But they are a beautiful sounding instrument. Guild makes a fine instrument if you can find an older one. The newer ones that are made where they're owned by Fender, don't care for them that quite as much, but the older ones made from, let's say pre-2000. If you can find a Guild from pre-2000, that would be a really good one. The Guild Dreadnoughts I especially like because they are very evenly, from treble to bass, they have a smoothness that sounds really good. Their jumbos are great too, but I have found that I prefer their Dreadnoughts. Old Ovations. Ovation 12 strings have a unique sound, very like a harpsichord kind of sound. It is a fun and interesting sound to play along with, and if you can get used to that round back, you can have quite a nice time with one of those. You can also find, if you can find one by Giannini, that was one that was made in, I think they're made in Brazil. They can be quite nice, and Hofner made some acoustic 12 strings as a European import. If you can find one of those, they can be quite sweet as well. So if you're shopping for a used 12 string, kind of keep those things in mind, those brands. What do you look for? Make sure action's not too high up off the neck. Make sure that the bridge saddle is not shaved down to the very top of the bridge and then with high action. That means there's no more adjustability. If the bridge is still got plenty of height on it, that can be shaved down, and then you can lower the action on it. Make sure that you don't have a broken truss rod in your 12 string. Some of them have the truss rod access up here. Some of them are inside the body and through the sound hole. Check those out and make sure that they are workable and adjustable, that they're not at their maximum. If they're at their maximum, then you don't have any more adjustability in it. Look for bellying. All acoustic guitars tops actually have a little bit of bellying in it. It's called crowning. The guitar is assembled basically in an environment where the guitar is pretty dry, and then after it's finished and stuff, then it's subjected to regular room temperature moisture, and it will actually crown a little bit. You have a slight bit of tension on the top that is a little bit, it's not completely flat. But if the bridge is like bulging, like there's a big belly here, like a hump where the top is pulling up, or if the top is caving in, that's not a good thing either. You can check for cracks and things like that. A good repaired crack. If you have a nice guitar that's got a repaired crack in it, it's not a big deal if it's been repaired properly. It'll be stable, and the guitar could give you lots and lots of years of enjoyment. But if there's cracks, there's something like in the headstock up here, you want to watch out for those, or cracks in the neck, cracks along the body joint. So those are some things to kind of keep in mind. If you enjoy this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Good luck on your 12-string search, and hope that you find an instrument that you will enjoy for many years. And if you do, please share in the comments. And if you have brands and stuff that you would recommend to people who are on the hunt for their 12-string partner, then just chime in and let everybody know your ideas. If you find a brand that you particularly like, we'd love to hear it. So thanks again for watching. Catch you next time. Keep on strumming. Bye.